Hi and welcome to my channel. This episode is going to be an interesting mixture between windmills, twin lens reflexes and shutters. Something like this. Let's get into it. With Britain battered by, it seems like, storm after storm for the last couple of weeks, yesterday was really the only opportunity I've had to go out and take some photographs. So I decided to give the Mamiya C330 a bit of an outing and go off into the wilds of Essex to find something interesting to take pictures of. As it happened, the wind hadn't left me alone, as you'll probably hear on the soundtrack of this video. I'm at a little village in Essex called Thaxted, and this is John Webb's windmill behind me. I'm going to see if I can find some photographs, and it's really windy here. So let's see what we can do. Well, we're back in the car after being absolutely blown away and frozen solid, and we're going to go home and have a hot cup of tea and develop some film. So catch you back there. Cold definitely stopped play there. I was absolutely frozen to the marrow after about 20 minutes of walking around the windmill, and although there were a lot of other interesting subjects down in Thaxted town, which is medieval and a lot of it is thatched, it's completely beautiful, but it was so cold, all I wanted to do was get home and have a hot drink, and to develop the Fomapan 200 that I'd shot. Well, it's quite interesting because the very lowest negative on the roll exhibited a problem I've seen with Fomapan, at least my treatment of Fomapan, on a couple of occasions before. And that's been a strange kind of black rash, I suppose you could describe, little black blobs and comma-shaped squiggles, which are not dust or anything like that on the negative. They are just a lack of image at that point. Now, I'd first of all thought air bells in development, but I've never had this with any other form of film in that format, or 35mm, or for that matter, cut film. Very, very peculiar indeed. I'm going to actually post a shot now of that strange marking, and if anybody out there's got any idea what it might be, I'd be more than grateful if you could stick something in the comments about it, because it's got me a little bit foxed. I do occasionally pre-wash Fomapan because the anti-halation layer, which is a deep sort of purpley bluey colour, tends to come off in absolutely everything and stains everything, or fixer and stop bar. But I didn't actually pre-soak on this occasion, or pre-wet, and so I don't think it's anything to do with that. It's just a very, very strange thing. And the second topic of conversation for this episode are shutters. The original lens that came with the Kodak Specialist had not actually a shutter problem, although it was a problem in the shutter. It was a broken aperture blade. Now, actually, the repair of that, I think, is uneconomical, but I did manage to get another shutter identical from the US, and simply replaced the front and rear element on the new shutter, or the new old stock shutter, and the standard lens for the Kodak is back to full health. I have got for the Kodak another lens which is around here, which is Mamaya wide angle. This originally came with the Kodak, and of course this one hasn't got a shutter, so you do the exposure old style with the lens cap on and off like that. This set me thinking about shutters because I have this old thing, which is a lovely front of lens shutter, single speed, 15th of a second, and I'll let you know how I know it's a 15th of a second exactly in a little while. But these are to work on barrel lenses for large format. That's lenses that don't have a shutter. This is a Thornton Picard Beck lens, and this doesn't have a shutter, and I won't do it at the moment because there are no pads on the end of this to stop marking the barrel of the lens. But the idea is that you screw these little screws in and mount the lens to the back of the shutter like that, and then you have a shutter. The issue would tend to be with this is it's only a 15th of a second, or time. And I would very much like to use some of my older lenses. I've got some lovely old brass Edwardian lenses. I'd very much like to use them on the Kodak or one of my Thornton Pickard view cameras. But yeah, one speed. So I started thinking about how difficult is it to build a shutter, because I actually serviced this shutter myself, and it's actually really, really simple inside. It's a spring, an over-center cam, and that's it. Of course, nowadays we have far more technology available than just springs. In other words, we have various different types of linear motors and actuators of all different sorts. So it got me to thinking about the possibility of actually building my own shutter. If I was to build my own shutter, I would need to time that shutter to see how fast it was going, and indeed to time this shutter, because I've never been quite sure whether it's a 30th or a 50th or indeed the 15th that it turns out to be. So I built from an Arduino and some components here, which will be a laser and a laser sensor, a shutter timer, which basically the laser goes behind the shutter and the sensor goes in front of it, or vice versa. You fire the shutter and it gives you a timing on a computer screen. I can't claim that I invented this system. There's a complete explanation of it on Camera Dactyl's YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to that in the about section. But this will be extremely useful for the project that I'm currently getting into, which is building a shutter. This is a very, very rough prototype, and this is going to be an ongoing thing, and I'll be making several videos about it on here. Basically, this is a large leaf shutter. At the moment, it's only actuated by a finger and a rubber band, but there will be other ways, and it will evolve, and it may indeed turn into something that I produce with my little engineering company. We'll see. This is just a rough prototype at the moment, just something to check whether the whole thing decides to work, and indeed if it's practical. So just a taster of what I'm doing with the shutter in this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope, if you have, that you'll give this video a like. And if you've enjoyed the content so far, and you want to see more, perhaps you think about subscribing. It does the channel a huge amount of good, and we're growing all the time. Anyway, I also have a Patreon account, and if you feel generous, you can always buy me a coffee, because I drink coffee like it's going out of fashion. Probably shouldn't, but I do. Anyway, until I see you again, take care, keep taking pictures,